Hi Xanthe, I thought we could look at colour analysis like DIY today, and so I'm not wearing any makeup. My lighting I've got is neutral. I've got too many ring lights. It's sort of a toss-up between cool plus neutral or neutral plus neutral. If I use the warm there, it's too orange. So I'm going to go with neutral because I've also got some supplementary lighting coming from outside. It's kind of deciding whether it's a grey day or not. Basically I just want to go over the whole thing with the seasonal colour analysis. This is the most popular form, but there's so much inconsistencies with it. You'll get same palette names with completely different colours. You'll get different analysts will give different results. It's very frustrating. Now, I've been interested in colour analysis though, because I like colour since the 80s. I mean, when I was a teenager, I first read the book about it. I've already talked about that. But I've got a bunch of colours. You can actually drape yourself. Incidentally, I was typed deep autumn 30 odd years ago. I don't follow the swatch exactly. I'll just quickly show you the swatch. So this is Colour Me Beautiful New Zealand. It was originally a fabric swatch, but I lost it, so I've got this card one. So these are the kind of colours. Most of the colours generally suit me, but I also suit some colours that aren't in there, and I don't suit some colours, really, I don't think I do, that are in there. Basically, there are all sorts of claims made about it which are completely false, such as that it's scientific. It's not. It's a loose application of colour theory. Some aspects of colour theory are scientific. Most of it's actually just a subjective comparison and concepts made up mainly by artists, actually. Still working on this, revamping this abstract, but a modern way of looking at colour is basically the CMY RGB model. So we've got red, magenta, then we move into violet, purple, we've got the ultramarine blue, we've got our phthalo blue or our cyan, especially if you lighten it. We've got our turquoises, our sort of more emerald greens. Then we got it's called phthalo green over here with the pigments. Then we've got some of more our lime greens, a yellow. So the yellows can go a little bit towards the green or towards the orange. We've got orange, and then we're going into the red. That's pretty much it. And then when you lighten the colour, you get the pastels. If you these are still kind of deep colours because pigments are deeper than your screen versions. Screen versions, you're basically darkening it, so that adding black is actually misleading because you're not really adding black. With screen, you're using red, green and blue light mixed together, and it's an illusion. So when you have them all mixed, you get white, neutral white light. So that's just a little bit of an overview. So the colour that I'm wearing today, as far as I can see, is not in the swatch, but I like it and I'm wearing it anyway. So the thing is, you don't have to, you know, all this this carry on about if you wear the wrong colours, it's going to make you look, you know, terrible or whatever. This thing is, the closest is brown burgundy. I would call this kind of a burgundy. Closest pigment I've got is probably this quinacridone red violet. So it's sort of, but it's not quite as cool as that. So it's a mixture, as often colours are. So pigments and light are different, but they interact together. Now, draping yourself with the fabric or other colours is a different effect to digital and just sticking a digital on the back. You can get an idea with digital, but when you drape a colour, it also reflects colour up in your face, which may have an impact. So I've got a semi-permanent, which is closer to my natural hair colour, so it's chocolate. So my hair colour is called neutral chocolate, naturally. But because it was getting a bit patchy with sun bleaching and, you know, starting to fade a little, I put a semi-permanent in it, which should just fade out. So I'll pull my hair back and also you can see better. So, you know, these are a few different colour pigments. So this colour is closest to the quinacridone magenta as well, but it's also like it's got a little bit of the red. That's like a pearl red, a primary red. So I prefer to kind of relate it to where they are with pigment colours, or the actual hues relative to each other, light or darker. This whole summer, autumn, winter, whatever is often just, there's so many flaws with it I've already covered. But anyway, let's say you want to drape yourself on a budget. Just remember, it all still comes down to subjective comparison with biases depending on the analyst. So calibrated eyes is a load of nonsense. You do get an eye when you're an artist with mixing things, you know what to mix with what when you want to mix any colour you like. But this whole sticking dogmatically to systems is a bit ridiculous. So when it comes down to it, it's still got to be comfortable, affordable for me because I'm on a low income, and practical, you know, throw it in the washing machine, whatever, and you know, get lots of wears at it. So I particularly like this colour. If I was wearing this kind of colour, the kind of lipsticks that I would wear wouldn't be, you know, kind of the more clearer kind of like reds like this. I would go for something with a bit of the kind of purplish in it, you know, perhaps this one here. Swatching lipsticks can be a good way to tell as well. So I'm wearing no makeup because I'm going to drape. Now I've got a whole bunch of fabric swatches here, which I just got for about 50 cents each in New Zealand. Just from the fabric shop. You just ask for the minimum off cuts, especially when there's a sale on. I'll just show you some of them, and just keep them in this little bag here. Now, what happens if the ones I don't want, I just donate them as a bunch to the op shop, and all the hobby crafters who like playing with fabrics can have a go at them, and you can make your own swatch. So some of these ones that I've made is just a piece of felt and some little pins, and just you know, you just put together some colours you like. What I find in general is that I do suit in general deeper colours, and also just a touch muted, not really very greyed. So muted in a mixing your warm and cool colours together, that kind of a way, but not really greyed. So if you know anything about paint mixing, you can learn a lot from that. With the, and it's even with makeup, same principles. So let's just compare a few of these colours. So even though I'm categorised as an autumn, some autumn colours I feel are too warm on me. What happens when I wear too warm colours is it brings out the yellow in my complexion quite a lot, in a kind of bad way. So I'll show you a couple of examples. I'll just check if they're in my swatch or not. I'm pretty sure they're not. Let's just see. Probably the closest one to that one is Marigold. So I feel that this one is a little bit too warm on me, and so it may not show on the camera, but generally when I've looked in the mirror, I don't really like. So what people were looking for generally, do you like what it's doing with your complexion? Are you getting too much shadowing under here in a bad way? Are you turning a different colour in a bad way? Are you, are the various, I have pictures of hyperpigmentation, is that brought out in a bad way? Or if you've got redness, is that brought out in a bad way? Now it's nothing you can't really fix with wearing makeup, but some people like myself don't like wearing tons of makeup. So I would say that I feel this one's too warm. This one's kind of a greenish kind of one, but it's still very warm as well. Just for comparison, this one's still pretty warm, but I think it'll probably be better. I can't actually see myself, so when I have the camera on, I use a mirror just to check the colours, and then I'm just just having to just do my best. Whereas these colours are considered cooler. Generally, people with olive complexions like myself often will go for cooler colours rather than exaggerating the olive. So compared to this one, which is a little bit greyed and as well, this one's generally kind of leaning into turquoise. This one's more of a, some people would call an emerald kind of green. So these are kind of deep colours, these two, and this one as well. So you can give them all different names, it doesn't really matter what they're called, but at the end of the day, I prefer to think of it, okay, so these colours are kind of around here, you know, these kind of greens, and then moving into the turquoise region. It doesn't matter if you call them jade or forest or whatever. You know, this one here though, in comparison, has a bit of, it's like a little bit greyed in comparison. There are actually much bolder and brighter colours than this. I do find that I feel that the pale colours, including the icy ones with the winter, don't look great on me. Pastels, not great on me. That doesn't mean that I might not sometimes buy them, but it's just not preference. And also this one here, which some people would call royal blue, there are actually more bolder versions of this, so it's like softened a tad. This kind of blue with this model, some people also call cobalt blue, somewhere in there. Whereas this colour here, some people will call turquoise. It would be leaning towards the green side of things, whereas this one here is looking a little bit more violet, so kind of more closer to the ultramarine blue. There's ultramarine blue paint there, pigment, so therefore we're looking at a blue that's going more towards a violet. You start to see the difference in the undertone is really the which colour analysis is ripped off and made it, butchered it. Undertone really is the hues that you can see when you thin it out or when you mix things. Like it's ripped off from painting really. So for example, the ultramarine blue leans violet and the phthalo blue looks leans green, but you may not really see that unless you thin it out and or you mix it with other colours, and then you can see there's quite dramatic differences with what you get. Say if you mix them with yellow, you get more of an olive green with this one and more of a vibrant green with that one. It's quite different. Whereas I've seen lots of colour analysis say this, that the undertone is a physical layer underneath your skin that is coloured. It's a load of bollocks. Okay, so we've got different reds here. So kind of this red would be kind of probably more closer to a primary red, leaning a little bit cool. This one is a little bit cool. You can get brighter and bolder reds by this, by the way. This one here, in comparison, is leaning more magenta. It's a little bit muted, so more in line with this kind of a colour. So it's not really on this model, but I'll try and add it because I'm just reworking these bits. But we have muted down, but we're still in the red family. And then we've got this one here, which some people would call sort of, you know, fuchsia kind of red. We're leaning into like a mix of the red and the magenta, somewhere in between there. So if we're looking at colour also, I've got another model here. So we've got the light colours. So we've got white at one end and black at the other. So this colour model can be both digital and pigments as a guide, but basically through the centre axis we've got white, different shades of grey, neutral grey through to black, and then we've got like this, the CMY RGB, cyan, magenta, yellow, red, green and blue. So basically the light colours are going more towards the white. It doesn't necessarily mean white is added as such, but because there's different processes with pigments and with light, but the deep are going towards the black, but I guess you could call it you know, pale, light, medium, deep and dark if you wanted to go by values. The values, how light or dark. But then you also look at the chroma, so whether it's you know, high chroma, so some pigments are high chroma, and then if you mix them certain ways you can mute them down and take them towards the neutral grey in different degrees. So there's so much possibilities. So in general, I don't really suit the colours in the sort of pastels here. Basically the pale and the lights are bad for me. So with the deep, I generally suit deeper. Sometimes I wear slightly clearer ones, slightly muted ones, sort of both. But when I choose makeup, I'll choose what kind of just coordinates. Sometimes I do wear, you know, bright colours. I have a raincoat and that kind of bright, kind of turquoisey colour. It's what is available again. It was between that or a light pale peach. The pale peach, it didn't really do anything for me. So yeah, it's just trying not to be shackled to this whole am I a summer, am I a winter or whatever. The seasonal colour model, I'm between an autumn and a winter, but I'm not fully a autumn or a winter, if that makes sense. But I wear some colours that aren't in either. So let's just have a look at a few other colours that I have, just as the samples. Let's have a look at this purple here, and we'll see if it's in my swatch. Let's have a look. This kind of purple is not in my swatch, but I can tell it's got a little bit of red in it. It's kind of leans more red. So does this one here, but this one's more red again. Can you see how the difference, that this is actually more of a red than this one is? But if you know where colours are relative to each other, it kind of helps a lot, and you can do away with the whole, you know, stuck with seasons. So this is green here is on this model is we are getting into a lighter colour and we're also a muted colour. So this was a Colour Mondo Mini. I ordered it online, and you just, it's basically flat packed and then you put it together like a jigsaw puzzle. So just this kind of brown. I do find that the browns I prefer may tend to be dark, rich chocolate browns, kind of similar to my hair. This is kind of a red here. This is another kind of lighter colour that's a bit muted. So we are going into a sort of between the red and the magenta. Now with the printing process, the CMYK, the red does turn out a little bit orange in this model, and the blue does turn out a little bit purple. But anyway, it's still reasonable for, you know, conceptualising the whole, you know, idea. So it's in there somewhere. Is it on my swatch? Let's just have a look. Probably the closest would be these ones here. So not very many light colours. So we've got this, some people call a hot pink or a fuchsia, and this model here, it is closer to the magenta, but between the red and the magenta, and it is considered to be a higher chroma colour. Whereas we've got this pink here, which is, you know, you can look at where they lie. It's just a little bit lighter. I don't find generally this kind of a pink as flattering as the other colours. I've got this one here, which in this model is sort of a red, but it's a slightly softer red. So some people might call it salmon or whatever. So let's just have a look at the reds from this palette. It would be closest to probably the one that they've called bittersweet, perhaps. So just have a look and see what other colours they've got. So you don't have to get an exact match. It's kind of just a guide. Just looking at the one, they've got one called watermelon, sort of in that kind of region. Let's look at a couple of the blues. So some people would call this navy blue, but then some people would call this navy blue. There's lots of different navy blues. So again, in this model, blues are generally darker, these kind of blues, and in this case we're between the cyan and the violet leaning blue, so we're in between there, and we're also a deep, so it's a deep colour. And then in this model, this is like a dark blue, but this one is leaning slightly towards the, you know, it's like a cross between the two blues here. Yellow is a pretty tricky kind of colour. So with me, it's probably only a few that I get away with wearing. It's kind of all these kind of golds, sort of just ever so slightly warm. Whereas, let's just check the model, they swatch. The ones that they have in the yellows is there. I feel that that one's too light on me, so that one's okay. It's kind of more of these, but this one's sort of between a primary plus a little bit of a gold. This is kind of more of a burgundy again, which on this model we are going to go basically sort of in between the red and magenta, kind of more closer to the magenta, but we've gone and darkened it essentially. Then we've got a purple, so there's different purples in the swatch. So the ones that they have are here, but personally I think that those are too light on me. I think they're more summer colours, and out of these two I probably prefer the originated one. This one's a little bit different again. You're not going to get that match necessarily. There's this one here. So with these purples, they're kind of, and violets, they're kind of towards between the blue and the magenta and hue. Just trying to find which one's closest to this. In this particular model, we are looking at sort of closer to the blue family, this one. And then we've got an orange. This is quite a bold orange in this case. So it's between basically in this model, because they've made the red quite orange, it is kind of like in the red family, but we've got here a cadmium red pigment light, which is a warmer red, and we've got cadmium orange pigment. So just showing the comparison, it is still, I would call it orange. Here's a grey. Now you can get all sorts of greys, and this one has a touch of I think a little bit of a green in it compared to a neutral grey. So it's all subjective comparison. Anyway, these are you know, just some colours that I've kind of collected that I kind of like on me, and just sometimes I might just add a few more, but basically, you know, try not to be shackled to the whole season. Which season are you? Because you're going to get different results when you go to different people. So I think that another useful way to figure out whether you are more warm or cool, or light or deep, or clear or muted, so some people call it the 6 dominant characteristics. Sometimes it can be a mixture of things. Like I get complimented on wearing a true red, for example, but generally I suit a little bit muted, but not really grey. So there's a whole spectrum. So so I have a bunch of lipsticks. So one of the easiest ways to tell is just to go to your local if you've got testers anywhere, try the lipsticks on. Not on my lips because of hygiene reasons, but try them on my hand. I'm going to get a good idea. Now what I would choose with this colour here is I could choose in the purples. I've got Portrait Please, I could go with that one from Revlon. I could try Mulberry from Mixed Victors. So what I do is when I swatch on my hand, I'm wanting it approximately that dark. Not really bold on me, and not pale, because pale is a waste of time and just looks really strange having pale lips when not super pale. So I could wear Mulberry. I'm going to put some lipstick on just to show you what a difference it makes to my colouring. And I find that being quite neutral with my colouring, with my hair, with my skin and my eyes, and a bit muted, but my hair often can look quite dark. Depends on the lighting again. So I've got hazel eyes that can look olive green as well, depending on the lighting. I find that I can go a little bit warm, a little bit cool. So in this model, so I consider whether I'm leaning a little bit more towards the orange or I'm leaning more towards the violet, and I find that I often do better with a mixture, both warm and cool. And so I find with colour analysis, this warm versus cool thing can be a bit ridiculous, because you can actually be a bit of both. So I really decided with this kind of colour, this kind of colour has a bit of violet in it, so therefore go a bit of violet. Now another thing I can do, I'll come back to the lipsticks with the comparisons. Another thing I can do is just add a little bit of blush. You can actually use lipstick as a blush, by the way, but again I'm using one with this colour which has a little bit of violet in it. It's got a little bit of violet pigment. It's also got a bit of the orange pigments in it because it's got the iron oxides if you read the ingredients. I find that as a bare minimum, and that's not even correcting issues like dark circles or anything, blush and lipstick are the bare minimum that I wear with makeup, especially if I don't really feel like anything. Now if I was wearing a more of a red, I would look at red colours. So let's find a red. So say if I was wearing something more along this, so we shifted away from the violet and we're going more into our red, I would choose reds, and you can mix reds together. So let's compare some reds. So when you're swatching them, this one here, this is Uncut Ruby by Revlon, sort of a little bit cooler and deeper. This one here is Wild Saffron by Revlon. Most of my lipsticks are Revlon, mainly because I like the colours, the formulation, and they don't have an annoying taste and smell for me, whereas some of the other brands do. And I also like the classic creamy lipsticks, so I just don't like all the really sticky ones. You can see how that one is warmer, so it's leans a little bit more towards the orange, whereas this one here is cooler. It leans a little bit more towards the magenta. But I mix them together to get a nice custom one in between, because you can be both. The colour analysis also use the word neutral often to mean in between, like warm and cool, but then it's a different kind of neutral when you're talking about light, which is neutral light is actually white, and then because when you mix different colours of light together you get white. So it's different to mixing pigments. True neutral is actually white, grey through the black. That's a true neutral. So I've got this other red here. That one comparatively compared to that is cool. Now I find that one's a little bit too cool on me by itself. That's Maybelline Ruby for me. I think they've discontinued that one. Now I've got this one here. Love that red. That one is a little bit too bright on me when I try it. So I get a good idea from swatching it on my hand, and you can even just blend it out to see the undertone more. So that one's more of a cool undertone. That one there, I think it's probably more of a spring colour. It's more the brightness is the factor, the high chroma. It's a bit too high chroma. That one is a little bit too bold on me by itself, but I can mix them together to make what I want. That one's pretty good on me, and that one's pretty good on me. These two are my favourites if I were to choose from these ones here. Now I also have another red, which is quite a different quality. If I was wearing a more muted red, you see how this is completely different. It's more brownish. This one is a Raisin Rage by Revlon. So swatching the lipsticks can give you a good idea of what, and you can spread it out. That's when you see the undertone. So the undertone is when you thin it out. It's not this mysterious layer hidden under your skin, which is a load of nonsense. So there are a mixture of different kinds of lipsticks there. The ones that I find would be the least flattering applied by themselves would be these two here, because that one's too bright, that one's too bold. By themselves, when I put them on my lips, they just look kind of a bit weird. I definitely suit that one if I'm going for a more muted look. I suit a mixture of these if I'm going for a a more kind of, you know, if I'm wearing a slightly more brighter colour. Now, so any of those kind of clearer colours. But I also have, some other colours. For example, we've got blackberry here, which is a darker one, but that's kind of a bit purpley and muted as well. I could wear that with this, but if I didn't apply as much. I've got some, this is another red here. Just going to run out of space here. Put it over here. That one there. But because, again, the only one that's still standing out is really odd to me is that one there. But I still have it on my collection in case I want to try it. Now this is a more softer one and not as dark or not as bright. That one's called Teak Rose. I like that with some clothing. As long as they're not super pale, it's something that I could consider wearing. Yeah, so I'm definitely happy to wear most of those except for out of this lot, these two by themselves so much. But if I had to choose, I would probably, even though I'm technically supposed to be warm leaning neutral, I would probably go for the cooler over the warmer one and brighter one, which I think it's kind of a funny colour. It's kind of a, I don't know whether it would be under the what they call the clear spring, which is a cross between the winter and the spring. I don't know. It's kind of just a weird colour. But this one, yeah, by itself can be a little bit too much as well. So anyway, I hope that helps.